The mission of the United Nations and the UN Security Council is to maintain international peace and security. These are important aims and shared interests. But as we look around the world, it's clear that there's much work for you to achieve. You're going to be very busy people, I suspect, over the coming months and years. Our nation faces serious and growing threats, and many of them stem from problems that have been unaddressed for far too long. In fact, the United Nations doesn't like taking on certain problems, but I have a feeling the people in this room, and I know for a fact that Nikki feels very, very strongly about taking on problems that really people steered away from. I encourage the Security Council to come together and take action to counter all of these many threats. On Syria, the Council failed again this month to respond to Syria's use of chemical weapons. A great disappointment. I was very disappointed by that. The status quo in North Korea is also unacceptable, and the Council must be prepared to impose additional and stronger sanctions on North Korean nuclear and ballistic missile programs. This is a real threat to the world, whether we want to talk about it or not. North Korea is a big world problem, and it's a problem we have to finally solve. People have put blindfolds on for decades, and now it's time to solve the problem. For the United Nations to play an effective role in solving these and other security challenges, big reforms will be required. In addition, we must also take a close look at the UN budget. Costs have been absolutely gone out of control, but I will say this. If we do a great job, I care much less about the budget, because you're talking about peanuts compared to the important work you're doing. You really are. You're talking about the most important things ever. And I must say, I'm a budget person. You see the way I'm talking about NATO, the same thing. But if you do a great job with the United Nations, I feel much differently about it, because we're talking pennies compared to the kind of lives and money that you'll be saving. The United States, just one of 193 countries in the UN, pays for 22% of the budget and almost 30% of the United Nations peacekeeping, which is unfair. We need the member states to come together to eliminate inefficiency and bloat, and to ensure that no one nation shoulders a disproportionate share of the burden, militarily or financially. And this is only fair to our taxpayers. I look forward to a productive discussion about our shared role in keeping the peace, advancing reforms, and getting everyone to do their fair share. I also want to say to you that I have long felt the United Nations is an underperformer, but has tremendous potential. There are those people that think it's an underperformer and will never perform. I think, and I think especially, I'm so happy with the job that Nikki is doing and our representatives, but Nikki and the group, and I see the relationship that she's already developed. I think that the United Nations has tremendous potential, far greater than what I would say any other candidate in the last 30 years would have even thought to say. I don't think it's lived up. I know it hasn't lived up to the potential. I mean, I see a day when there's a conflict where the United Nations, you get together and you solve the conflict. You just don't see the United Nations like solving conflicts. I think that's going to start happening now. I can see it. And the United Nations will get together and solve conflicts. It won't be two countries. It'll be the United Nations mediating or arbitrating with those countries. So I see fantastic potential and fantastic things ahead for the United Nations.